So El Salvador just made a Bitcoin legal tender. What should Nigeria learn from this? Join me. Hi, folks. So, welcome to The Way I See It, which is my podcast on all things money, finance, the economy, and all that. Uh, Yesterday, I think the nation of El Salvador passed a law that basically made Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador. So that's a big deal in the world of Bitcoin. Um, why is El Salvador making Bitcoin legal tender? It's very easy to understand. El Salvador has a lot of citizens working in the United States. If you make BTC, which is Bitcoin legal tender, it's easier for them to remit money from the US back to El Salvador. It's just an added way to improve financial inclusion and to open up more channels to basically get those funds from the US back to El Salvador. So now you see lots of other South American countries like Panama, Colombia, and all that also looking at this, seeing if they can do a digital currency or a central banked currency. So their citizens can also have another means apart from going to the bank to send funds back to their home state. So it's a win-win, more or less. If you have BTC or if you work in the US and you want to remit money to El Salvador, you can just send BTC back to El Salvador. The central bank can receive it like they were receiving dollars, and the bank in El Salvador can take it, transfer it to dollars or to local currency, and give it to your relatives back home. So, what about Nigeria? Nigeria, of course, being the largest economy in Africa and the largest, should we say, number of Black people in the world, 1 in 4 are Nigerian. What is the Nigerian policy on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, and all that, considering the fact that Nigeria also has a large diaspora population in the US, Europe, and China, and all that? What is their policy? Well, the Central Bank of Nigeria on February the 5th did release a circular on cryptocurrencies. And I'm going to quote here: dealing in cryptocurrencies or facilitating payments for cryptocurrencies is prohibited, quote closed. They went further. They asked the institutions, i.e. the banks in Nigeria, to, I'm quoting again, identify person and or entities transacting with cryptocurrencies or operating cryptocurrency exchanges, right? So the CBN is essentially saying, which they clarify that they're not banning cryptocurrency used in Nigeria, but they're simply asking Nigerian banks not to accept cryptocurrencies or to settle cryptocurrency transactions. In effect, it's a ban. So if you have cryptocurrencies, you cannot settle or transfer to a Nigerian bank for your relative or someone else to then go in and pick that currency up. So it's a ban. And what has been the reaction of Nigerians to this? Well, they've simply gone somewhere else. They've gone to peer-to-peer exchanges like Beyonce. So Beyonce has created its own Naira pair. So that allows you, if you're a Nigerian, say in Texas, you can buy BTC and go on the Beyonce exchange and transfer those funds from the exchange to someone else that would receive from you, and then he can settle himself. So it's a walkabout going through traditional banking in Nigeria. And the effect has been major. The Beyonce exchange is doing give or take about $1 billion a day. That's that's in Nigerian naira, and that's substantial, more or less. And we're starting to see this effect show up on the official remittances flow of dollars back to naira that is flowing back to Nigeria. That has gone down considerably. The official narrative is that it's gone down because of reduction in remittances due to COVID, but it's also gone down because lots of Nigerians are also doing this peer-to-peer exchanges. They're not going through Nigerian banks. They're doing this, sending dollars through the other avenue, more or less. And that's affecting the flow of dollars officially into Nigeria. So CBN has tried to counter this by saying, okay, If you send dollars to Nigeria via remittances, not cryptocurrencies, dollars to Nigeria, we will give you an extra 5 naira. So in effect, they're giving you like a promotion, a cash back to say if you send naira or dollars to Nigeria, we'll give you a cash back of 5 naira in addition to what you would get if you normally just did a transfer. What has been the effect? Not much, not much, because it's complicated now. This is not the complicated part. So I gave you that opening just to explain that, listen, other countries are evolving and creating new methods to send money, remittances back home. But Nigeria is not, right? And the problem is this: remittances, if you want to go to a bank, it's very, very expensive to send money from the West to Africa. I would quote the Brookings Institute basically says the fees paid to remittance service providers to send money back to Africa is nearly 9%. And this is the highest rate in the world. It's 3 times the sustainable development goal target for remittance cost at 3%. So the target is 3%, the actual is 9%. So if you go to America and you work, you want to send money back to your family, nearly 10% of that is taken by the bank or the institution that's just sending the funds back home to you. That's a big deal. So you want to send $1,000, you pay 10% more or less just to send the money back home. That's already a tax, an indirect tax on your wages in the West. So this is the problem. This is why El Salvador and the rest are doing what they're doing, but Nigeria isn't. But Nigeria is stuck because Nigeria needs the dollars to flow to the country because we do a lot of imports. Nigeria does a lot of imports. And their fear is that if the dollars flow through cryptocurrencies, they are not able to control that flow and then affect the exchange rate because Nigeria operates a managed, quote unquote, floating exchange rate. So they want the funds to flow, the remittances to flow to the central bank. The central bank can then use those funds to then play in the foreign exchange market to affect the exchange rate of the naira, which is the local Nigerian currency, to the dollar. And this is not happening. So that's basically what's going on. Nigeria has gone as far as banning certain items from being officially traded, i.e., if you import, say, rice or maize, you can go to any bank in Nigeria and say, hey, I want dollars to import rice or maize. Those items are banned more or less. You have to go to the alternative market, what we call the black market, to buy dollars to import, say, rice or maize. So the problem is this: if I am an importer of rice or maize, and that's a big import in Nigeria, and I go to the banks, I can get dollars. I have to then go to the alternative market, aka the black market. If I go to the black market, because that's my only choice, I cannot go to the bank. I'm going to outbid everybody on that market to get dollars. So if I am remitting naira or remitting dollars back to Nigeria, I have two options. I could go to the bank and get paid the official rate plus the 5 naira cashback. Or I could go to the alternative markets, the black markets, and get the real price, which is the market, the street price of my dollars. My street price is always going to be higher than the official price. Why? Because the guys that want to import the banned items are always going to outbid everyone to buy the available dollars because they have no choice. If they don't buy on the alternative markets, they can't go to the bank. But if I want to travel and I want to buy an air ticket, I could go to the alternative markets, I could go to the banks, I could go anywhere to buy. But if I want to import maize, I can only go to the alternative markets. I can go to the bank. So that creates whatever price, i.e., there is no alternative TINA scenario in the Nigerian forex markets for the guys that have the banned items. This then means that as long as the demand for those items remains, then the price will always go up. Nothing you can do about it, right? People have to eat rice, people have to buy maize to feed chickens and all that. So the price is always going to go up. And that's one reason why you have inflation back home in Nigeria, because the cost, the imported cost of the dollars feeds into the local prices. So the way to stop inflation, the way to reduce the prices is to increase the supply of dollars. If you can increase the supply of dollars, then those chaps that want to import, say, rice or food or maize, can then get dollars at a cheaper price. If they get dollars at a cheaper price, then the cost of those imports coming into the country is reduced. If you drop the cost of food, you drop the cost of inflation. And yes, Nigeria has got to import food because the local production of food simply cannot meet the demand for food. We have number one, the crisis of the insurgencies in the Northwest, taking away most of the agricultural land. And of course, you have a population growing at 3% per year. So, yes, you do have to import food to keep prices low. Otherwise, there's more people chasing less food. And of course, economics says the price would go up. So, we have to import food. And if you have to import food, the price of food is always going to go up because the food importers cannot buy dollars except they go to the alternative market. We've made that case, right? So now let's do the solution. The solution in my mind is to try to see or try to copy what the El Salvadorans have done and create, there are two ways to do this. CBN could create a digital currency. It could be a token. It should be a stable coin. Stable coin meaning that that coin is tied to the value of the US dollar. And the CBN could basically say, hey, if you want to transfer money, you can go on your app, your Coinbase app, buy a cryptocurrency, and then exchange it to a CBN currency, which comes to us. Don't worry about it. We're going to give you the exact same rate that you would get on the street. No fixed price, nothing. So that way, if I have dollars, I know that if I sell to the Central Bank of Nigeria, I'm going to get the exact same rate that if I sold to the alternative markets. So there will be an increase of flow going to the official central bank purse because it's matching the market exactly. It doesn't have to pay a cash back. It's matching what the market would pay exactly. And it's safer for me. I could go to my bank and transfer money officially to the Central Bank of Nigeria's account, and it's it's real, it's official. I have paperwork, it's going to a country. So I would prefer that, and I get the exact same dollar rate that I would get on the streets. So I would like that. I can send money to my mom, she can get it, have my paperwork, it's nice and safe. Good. No cash back, but I get the real rate, which is fantastic. The other thing the CBN could do is to allow the Nigerian banks to together maybe form a fund. They could form a fund, they could issue a coin, and that coin could be a private coin supported by the Nigerian banks or supported by any investor. It could be the NNPC, whoever it is, come together, put dollars together, and create a pool of dollars. That pool of dollars backs up the value of another private stable coin and then offer that private stable coin the same way, but without the Central Bank of Nigeria. So I could go into that market and I could send to that fund, buy their tokens, and they basically get my dollars more or less. The difference is that the central bank does not have to tie up its own reserves, backing up the value of that stable coin. The value of the stable coin is then backed up by the promoters or the contributors or the investors to that fund. So the CBN is free. It doesn't have to lock in $1 for $1 to receive $1 for $1 from importers. It can simply say, listen, we're going to have a fund, we're going to have an exchange. If you want to participate, put funds into that exchange. The fund is locked up. Whatever the value of the fund is, if it's going to be 10 billion, then the fund can issue 10 billion coins. And that's it. It's pretty easy. So you send your funds, it's one to one. The value is backed up by that fund. But what happens is that then I could send money to any bank I want that is tied to that fund. I know the value of what I'm sending and what's going to be received is going to be equal. It's going to be the same. There's no differentiation or no arbitrage in price. And I also know it's going to be safe as well. But the difference is the private sector, the central bank's revenues or the central bank's reserves are not tied up to basically promote and keep the value of these funds up. If we do this, it will be something like the JP Morgan coin that they have internal transfers, but it's going to be a cross-border transfers. If African countries are able to do this, number one, you reduce trade, you reduce the cost of trade intra-Africa because I don't have to go from CFA, which is the currency of the French-speaking West Africa, to say Naira, which is the currency of Nigeria, to say francs or euros or dollars, just one currency. And the value is known as tied to a basket. You also reduce remittance costs. So if I want to send money, I just buy that coin and I send. I don't pay fees to anybody. I don't pay 10% to anyone to transfer money in a digital age to Africa. I don't have to pay that. So I'm dropping cost, I'm making commerce cheap, and I'm making commerce safe, trackable. That way I reduce the bad actors. I know my know your customer review, and I can have paperwork to show this happened and it's safe, no terrorism and all that. I think that's something we should consider. It would drop the cost, like I said, and it would reduce food inflation, which is driven by imported inflation. And then that would be a win-win for everybody. So, in summary, I think CBN has to rethink their cryptocurrency stance. The ultimate goal of a central bank anywhere is to manage the prices, exchange rate stability. The CBN has to keep that front and center. How it does that is really not important. It has to make sure it keeps price stability, i.e., inflation management, as core of its mandate and drops the inflation. Inflation kills, CBN should kill it. All right, guys, I'll leave you guys for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Keep following us on Twitter, FinPlanCaluAja1. Love you guys. Keep sharing the podcast. Keep telling your friends. I'll see you all next time. Bye.